Bonjour. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing? We've got Melissa, Louise, Christy, Andreas. How we doing? Adelaide, Australia. Christy's down in that side of the globe. New Zealand, isn't it, Chrissy? And Chrissy as well, flexing that Joel Create membership badge as well. Love that. Let's turn that music down a little bit. How's that? You can hear me okay? And Andreas is here from Berlin. Who's Kane? I'm still recovering from last night watching Summerslam. Summerslam. Excuse my ignorance. Summerslam. Oh, WWE. I haven't watched WWE for a long time. Chrissy, my throat is a little bit croaky. Just a tiny bit. I mean, in the latest YouTube video, I was really struggling, to be honest. But it just hurts if I'm nattering, which is obviously not ideal when we're doing a live stream. But eventually, it'll be alright. But at the moment, just struggle a little bit. But I'm feeling much better though. I feel great. So if anything, I'm back to normal. It's just my throat. Occasionally, I just get a cough and stuff. So yeah, it is what it is, but thank you for asking. We've got Takitio. Thank you very much for welcoming me back. A bit of context real quick before I carry on. This was a photo I took on my couple of days of freedom this weekend. So my freedom was granted back to me of isolation from Friday. So went out and made the most of it. Went to the zoo. Really made the most of it. It was great. Really good weekend. So what I'm currently doing is I took this photo of these beach huts and I wanted to turn it into an illustration in some way. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Just a little bit of a design that I want to put together. So I'll be cracking on with that. Hi from Paris. Bonjour. And Louise, well, yesterday I celebrated my 21 years being a fan. Oh, that's awesome. Did you go, or did you just watch it? Sorry, I guess it's on stateside as well, so I don't know where you are in the world, but I guess if you're UK side, that could be pretty brutal. And Bethany Sutherland's here as well. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you very much. How is everybody else? Everybody's been asking me, but how is everybody else? I want to catch up with everybody. Right, so let's... So what I'm doing is I just want to use the photo I took, but just... oh, it's just really hard. I've got plaster on the end of my finger, so I can't undo, redo very quickly. Gotta like use different fingers for it. So yeah, I just wanted to turn this into an illustration. Hey, how good was Apple Chris, by the way? Stepping in for us very last minute. She was amazing. I dropped her a message and she was pretty excited to do it as well, and I was so happy that she wanted to. And I think she got a nice little boost of subscribers and stuff, so that's really cool. I was really pleased that she decided to do that for us, and she did a fantastic job as well. Like, she's so good. She was rapid on the shooting her video and getting everything I needed across, and done a great job. I watched it last night and watched NXT TakeOver 36 tonight. Alright, cool. guess that was a pretty late one as well. Wow, this music is crazy. Oh yeah, I heard you back in lockdown. So is that, forgive me, Chrissy, but is it Australia or New Zealand you're from? But I remember seeing that this weekend about that gone into lockdown. Isn't it only for a brief period of time though? Also, let me know if this music is too loud or if I'm too quiet or anything. I can't remember how it was all set up, to be honest. It should be left how it was. Chrissy, that badge looks so cool next to your name. I love that. New Zealand, yeah, I remember that. I thought it was. So is that, I guess, full lockdown? So like your kids aren't at school, I guess, as well. Last week I did some artwork for some women's matches for Summerslam. Oh, cool. That's really cool. What, so she was in the event and you did some work for her? Oh, and you locked down mic for a while. Oh, Jesus. But you guys have been like super responsive though, like at the same time, like in a good way. Like you try to nail it and get it done as quickly as possible, so fingers crossed that'll be the last of your lockdowns, if any. Full level 4, yeah. Second it hits, we hide. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I think you're in a better position than we've been. It's been pretty naff over here. Just the responsiveness and why and when they do it, it's just pressure. Let's check out Louise's Instagram. So what I'm doing at the moment is just grabbing all the shapes from this, and then I'll be able to start adding in the colours and stuff that I want for this. But when I saw it, I thought straight away, I thought that would be a really cool like illustration. I'm always doing that recently, like when I'm out and about, you just end up seeing something. I think, I mean, I was at the zoo and I was like, some of the birds just looked amazing. Thought they would look really cool. Like some of them really vibrant. Thought that would make an awesome tutorial. Oh yeah, Chrissy, 100%. Like Chrissy, sorry. If you, as long as you're doing it and it's for short bursts here and there, it's better than like a 3 or 4 monther. I tell you what, I've struggled a lot with like the lockdowns over here. It's too much. Oh, that's awesome, Louise. Oh, why is that just turned off? There we go. Andy liked it as well. That's sick. Trent 7. Awesome, and you get that recognition as well. Right, what was that? Just stick with just monoline, I think. keep it all consistent. Wee little holiday for sure. Lixley, I'm gonna say he's here in the chat. That's cool. So what I want to now highlight is these wooden planks and just try and work out how I want to capture them, whether or not it's just real clean, straightforward horizontal lines like so. Or if I wanted to like change the brush in any way. This is just content for Instagram, to be honest with you, so it probably won't be a tutorial or anything. It's just more of a process. Ixley. Okay, cool. That's gotcha. I got some really fun stuff coming up though, which will be definitely worth some of the tutorials and some time spent on them. Lockdown, not lockdown. Well, isolation, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. I guess isolation is the correct term. Gives a lot of time to try and work out what I sort of content I want to start making. I know there's some other ideas as well, so. I'm not gonna lie though, it was horrible. Like, it felt so ill. I'm from TikTok and a fan. Oh, that's awesome. My TikTok's been super quiet. I need to, I mean, people who are regularly here in the chat will know it's a love-hate relationship sometimes with TikTok, but glad to see you here. I'm trying to do a bear in a similar way to the frog, but the fur is a lot harder. Yeah, definitely a lot different textures there for you to try and capture. I suppose you'd need a couple of different brushes for that as well. Like, that'd be pretty tricky to try and do with the same brushes that I used in the frog design, but the principles will be the same in a sense. You could still like stencil out bits and bobs. No, I've not had the vax. That was probably a mistake. It's probably why I was so ill. Although Scouse Trooper, you know, one of our patrons, definitely let me know that was a mistake. So I want to keep them really clean like that. I don't want to do too much in terms of like miniature details here and there. So I think, how could I do this to save some time? I don't think there's a quick and easy way to maybe duplicate that because the angles are different. I think I'm just going to have to do a group and then make another group. But no vax, which I guess is why I was so ill. I got a lovely palette for this style as well eventually when we get all the shapes involved for this. Okay, this one's a bit different. This roof just links up in a point. What's up, Samux? How you doing? Thank you for dropping in, showing some love. Yeah, I know, Chrissy. 100%. That's how I felt. Bugger. Bethany Sutherland. There are a couple of artists who have great fur brushes. If you want suggestions, chuck them in the chat. Definitely. I know a lot of people try to it's probably one of the first things they want to try and draw when they get Procreate, especially, like, is their own pets a lot of the time. Just definitely, if you've got a couple of good resources, 100% chuck them in the chat. I mean, this music at first was a bit much, but it is actually really hyping me up a little bit, which is good. It's a bit late here. It's only, well, I suppose it's only 20 past 9, but after quite a long weekend with family and stuff, feeling a bit tired at the end of it. Hey, there has been, like, I'm always one for hyping up people in the space. Like, I don't have any problem with, like, shouting out, like, competitors. And it's not, I hate calling them competitors. They're not competitors. They're fellow Procreate content creators. But there has been some unbelievable tutorials in the last couple of weeks. Like, it is, some of the styles and stuff has been awesome. I saw one that I haven't seen online though, like I haven't seen it on her page, but Flo did a tutorial because I saw one of my patrons completed it, and it was like a pink tree in like a cavern, underwater cavern, light shining down. Man, that thing was unbelievable. And she also done a couple of really cool caricature tutorials recently as well, which is, I love. Awesome. Awesome work. So at this point, I'm just blocking in all the colour and the line work that I need. Bar dot brush, good Skillshare class on fur. And a great set of brushes. Generally. Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'll definitely take a look at that as well. That's something I think I'm going to dabble with soon, as well as a Skillshare class. It's obviously quite similar to YouTube in a sense, like the content is, you know, fairly similar. But yeah, it's definitely something I think I will be doing soon. So this one here, I think I'm going to have to block this line off, something like that, and match it to the actual shape that I drew, which actually just about works out fine, so that's good. No, Bethany, absolutely. Like, the thing is, like, some people get really funny about it and can get really funny in terms of, like, you know, not wanting to, in their mindset, I guess, think of sending people elsewhere. But at the end of the day, like, people have different styles. I know, like, my sort of spacey style a lot of people like, but then they'll see a tutorial from somebody else and obviously like that as well. And to be honest, the Procreate community of artists, of like drawers, that people can follow the tutorials, they're always following multiple people anyway, and because of the variety that we all provide, like, and that's how I kind of like to refer to it as, is that it's a we thing. Like, we are providing you content on a weekly basis or twice a week or whatever, you know, and you get, I mean, people would forget that I was, like, I would probably say it for all of us, every Procreate content creator, we've also been the person on the other end, like, with all the YouTube subscriptions to all these different artists, and looking when the tutorials come out and going, oh cool, I'm gonna make half an hour to start cracking on with that, you know. So, you know, I had my fair share of different artists that I was following in my, like, very early Procreate days. Admittedly, like, I started doing tutorials very quickly, merely because I just kept getting asked for them all the time once I started drawing my own work. But Yeah, you got to be appreciative of the other people in the space. If you can't, then to be honest with you, I kind of feel sorry for those people in a sense, because they also inspire you in different ways. Like, I see some of the work that like Tati and Flo and James, the big guys, and Rishi as well. Their work is just awesome. Like, that makes me want to go do something and go do some work. So yeah, gotta roll with it, enjoy it. Just for my own mindset, this piece here just needs to be a very dark color. It's throwing me off that it's not. All these shapes as well, and the colors of them are simply temporary as well. I'm just getting all the shapes that I need in position so I can afterwards start to fill it in with the correct colors and stuff. So, and this is the benefit as well of digital art, is being able to drop in a photo, and a lot of people may suggest that it's tracing, which obviously it is. There's no denial in it, but it's also part of the fact that you are doing digital art. You have those availabilities to you and possibilities. So it's very different to like traditional art. If you're literally just tracing over someone's work, you have this benefit to then create the perspective, and if you want to freehand it, you can freehand it and do it like that instead. But otherwise, there's no problem with creating content if you're going to use like an image like I am today as like a foundation for your design, and then just use it. Because once I've done with this, I'm going to go ahead and add the colors in and work out how simple or nuts I want to go with the coloring and stuff. Michael Almond, love your work and think you're one of the top ones. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much. I love the support a lot of my followers give. And to be honest, I can't again lie. Everybody in the space gives, you see it on everybody's tutorials. The love that people share is great. Every time you get a message like that, it makes doing the tutorial worthwhile. So I appreciate you sharing the love, mate. Thank you. I'm not gonna lie. When I was a bit ill, like I mentioned. I could not wait to get back behind the camera and start drawing again. Like, I couldn't wait to get another tutorial up. Sat like in bed just thinking this is just got to end soon so I can just crack on. You have all these ideas, and I always believe that you have like a physical and a mental tank every day. And me personally, if I don't exhaust that tank almost every day, get a bit irritable. So I definitely was feeling that a little bit. Just wanted to create something and draw. This plaster is actually super annoying on my finger. May have to take that off in a second. I don't want any blood all over the shot. Chrissy, I'm not the biggest space theme person, but I love your tutorials. You have taught me so much with shading, which I haven't seen elsewhere. Is useful with layers, things make things look more full. That's awesome. I'm glad I can help that certain ways that others maybe don't. But I have noticed, I have a preference towards the space stuff, but I also know, I've got to balance it out. So, got some fun stuff coming up with like watercolor as well. Just it'll be a relatively quick tutorial. But once you learn the technique of this, it will you could turn like so many people's photos or like photos you take into a watercolor portrait. And yeah, it'll be really fun to do once we get to that. Went off my page a little bit there. Do you like colouring on paper? I love to draw, but I hate colouring. I used to love drawing, like physical drawing. I mean, technically, sorry, not technically. I mean, really, I still would love to do it. The benefit though, like you get, to be honest, you get so used to the unforgiving nature of like software sometimes that like going back to doing traditional drawing could genuinely be quite painful mentally. What I mean by that is you get so used to a two-finger undo. Like, you know, I think I said this before on stream, but like I was doing something on physical form. I think it might have been writing something, but at some point I think I like double tapped on a piece of paper to like undo, and I just stopped and I thought to myself, am I going nuts? Like, it felt like I was going nuts because you're double tapping on a piece of paper because you just got so much real muscle memory. And yeah, I had to laugh about it at the time, but yeah, it's just all those things you get used to. But I don't personally look to do any physical drawing at the moment. I think the thing with art is if you've got enough time to spread your sort of oh, hang on, have I done that too wide there? I think if you've got the time to draw on many different art forms, then yeah, go for it. But me personally, I don't. And being that I've got this like quote business, you know, of Joel Create to be cracking on with, as well as like commissions and stuff, I don't really have the time to experiment too much with, you know, just thinking, oh, you know what, I'm gonna paint today or draw. And if I did, I would want to do it in Procreate anyway, just to try and, you know, you continue to learn. And every time you draw, you're learning something, whether you think you are or not. So, oh, thank you, Takisio. Appreciate it. I've done that too. Double tap on paper. Why isn't it undoing? Yeah. It's crazy to think that you can do that and like literally just be puzzled as to why this physical thing isn't working the same. Okay, so I just want to change all the colors to the same as each piece, so I can just get an idea if I like the setup or the level of detail. I quite like the minimalistic nature of it. There's a few bits in here that are a bit untidy, so we'll tidy these up first and then move into adding some color and experimenting a little bit with that. Hope God adds this feature into the beta paper. Yeah, absolutely. If they could invent something like that also would allow for a quick cheeky double tap, that would be a lifesaver, wouldn't it? Oh, I know what's happened there. This layer here is a little bit wider, so that's just needs tidying up a little bit. It's better. Much better. Okay, cool. Let's tidy up this middle group here now. Siska's here. God, it must be late for you, Siska. Over in Holland. What time is it there? I guess it's an hour or maybe 2 ahead. So, a bit late for you there. How are you doing? Okay, so the only thing I've started to realise is the doors will need some detail on them as well, like the wooden patterns. So we need to turn off a bunch of layers and then take a look at the lines Now, a lot of these lines actually run straight across the door. So what we could do is actually duplicate this and clip it to the door, and let's just like say invert it for a second just so we can see those wooden slats in there. Likewise, you need to do the same on these other layers as well. So it's just a little way that we can visually see everything else. And let's because sometimes at this point, little tip is if by doing this you start to just work out how much level of detail you want to add going forward. So you can add it all in, look at all your shapes now before you start going forward, because once you start adding colors in and maybe like gradients and stuff, it will really start to be a bit of a pain if you've got to go backwards on yourself. Russell, how you doing, mate? Thank you for dropping in from Surrey. And Siska, you're great, that's awesome. And I am also great, feeling a lot better. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I'm a little bit croaky still and starting to feel a little bit on fire. I'll have a drink. But yeah, I'm much better. Thank you for asking. Okay, so I don't think I want to add much more detail. If we actually remove the background, I think I like the minimalistic look to it. I mean, as you guys already know with myself, sometimes I really like a minimalistic one, you know, like the T-Rex one that we did this weekend, you know. That was also relatively minimal. I wanted to keep it really simple and clean. So what way you like the most while doing physical drawing, alcohol or coloring? Me personally, my favorite when I used to do physical is mainly like most of the time either pencil work, because I quite like black and white work like that. Otherwise, I would probably maybe charcoals again, because I prefer I like harsh lighting. Lighting in like all my tutorials is pretty critical. So yeah, we probably charcoals. Yeah. Okay, so excuse me, first cough of the night. That's good. We're only half an hour in. Magic. Let's just hope they don't rack up a little bit more. So I like the minimalistic nature. I like that they're all very similar to one another. I can come back and do some more details if I want to, but now I will need to work out lighting. So where is the lighting coming from? Because this will affect a lot. Now we've got these really cool ledges here that stick out on the front of these beach huts. So if we did some lighting from this direction, we could create a really cool undershadow here onto the wood as well, which would look awesome. I've got a couple of ideas of where I want to go with this. There is a possibility that we could keep it really clean and minimal and save it, and then I'll just literally go nuts with some patterns and go like really like just crazy with it. I want to like throw in some patterns there, so I may create two sort of versions. I might even duplicate the canvas afterwards and add that in. So okay, so if we're going to do lighting from the top, we need to start working out some just basic shadows. Now what I like to do with shadows sometimes is you don't have to add in the correct color. What I mean by that is we've got these ledges. If I just go to black and lower the opacity down to 50%, no matter what color I decide to chuck on these background or on the actual beach huts, it won't matter, because the black will always at 50% bring some of that color through anyway. So you don't need to worry about getting like a darker tone and your highlighter tone too accurate at this point. So I think what we'll do is let's color them in with the correct colors, and then I can go ahead and add in some shadows. So let's start at the top here. I think I've got these three colors here. So I've got really nice pink and yellow and green, because then the blue sky will have all those main colors and it'll look really smart. So I'm gonna go for, what do I want to be the prominent color? I think the pink would look good against the blue the most, and then yellow and then green. So let's do that. Let's add in the pink color. So the darker pink out of this palette is going to be the darker points of the wood. So dragging it into these spaces here, and then the main body of the hut will be this lighter pink for a minute. And then like I said, I'm going to go in and change all the colors up. gonna alpha lock my lines, probably drop in the darker pink now. And now all the tones will start to slowly come together and also match up. Let's grab the darker middle pink. Let's grab those lines. And let's grab that pink again. So the only thing I want to do is just nudge these lines slightly like down and to the left maybe, so the wood doesn't perfectly match up. I don't know if it down or up looks better, like up a pixel, because the door is slightly off of the frame here, so I think that would look good. Well, I don't know what this is up here. Oh, actually I do. Okay, so adding in sort of main colors there. The roof will be a dark color, which I think is this one here, darker color as well. And then let's do the same for the roof color as well. Let's use the darkest one we got. Nice. Okay, so what I wanted this to look like really is like a vintage sort of like poster. So that's kind of the look I'm going for. I'm going to do the same with all the other lines. Only thing I've realized, I kind of need an even darker version of this yellow because we have the gap in between the huts, so that's got to be a new color to the palette that I've not considered yet. Oh no, that needs to be this color. Yep, that's the one. So just adding in those correct colors now, getting that very sort of vintage look to the palette. Let's go for green now at the end. So we're going to drag and drop all these colors in. And then once we've got the colors in, we can then start to look at what we want to change. Do we want to change the tones of it? Maybe. I think we'll be all right. I don't think I want to change much. Is everybody still here? What happened there? His drawing looks sick, so glad I can make a stream for once. Oh, awesome. Thanks, dude. Why did I add that color in here? Because that looks far too blue to me. You know what? We'll go with it. It is what it is. Let's see how it goes. And then we're going to go for a slightly darker green in that gap. Okay, cool. See, that's where I wanted to go with this. So now you can really start to see the where I wanted to go with the palette, essentially. So that is very close to what I want. The only thing that's bugging me a little bit, I think, is this green back here. It feels too dark, and I don't know whether or not I actually used the wrong green for it. I feel like this green here is too dark. So let's just try a different one. That's better. It was too harsh, far too harsh back there in contrast to these ones here. So that's cool. That's looking better. Okay. Now I want to start doing what I mentioned a second ago about our shadows. And this will start to bring to life the wood as well as the flat surfaces a bit more. So let's work on this green one all the way down here. Lighting's coming from this way. So I want to mainly add shadows, but I will add highlights as well. So underneath this top green bit here, these two bars, we need to add in like a drop shadow. So we need to find the layer we want, which is really above here. Grab black. The layer, just drop it straight away to about 30%. That's usually a good mark. And then let's just mimic this line here and the shadow it would cast. So really, we could probably go straight across here like that. And take a look at how that looks. Drag and drop that in. Boom. This is what I'm talking about. Like straight away, you add one shadow and the 3D-ness of everything starts to come to life a lot more. So that's looking good. I like that. We'll look at the diamond here. Now for the diamond, I don't want to redraw it. So I'm actually going to duplicate it and fill in the bottom one out of the two. Black. So I've got two layers here. And I could lower that down to 30% and then just grab the cursor and just create the same sort of angle. Lighting's coming from that way. And then just link up the lines so they're nice and straight. Like so. That looks great. Nice little bit of shadow. Now the only thing I want that shadow to apply to, because obviously this part of the shadow is floating in midair, which is nonsense. So we need to clip it to these lines here. And that's the only thing you got to always bear in mind is what should your shadow actually land on. Sometimes I see little bits here and there where people miss where the surfaces are that it should be touching. That's cool. I'm actually going to do the same for the door, I think. I'm going to duplicate it and then the bottom one out of the two, drag the black in, lower the opacity down to 30 again so it matches up to everything. Keith has subscribed on YouTube. Thank you, Keith, if you're here. Little alert there. But yeah, I'm going to do the same thing here for the door because I just want to illustrate like the door's sticking off of the background a little bit. Just something like that. Because obviously the doors sometimes aren't flush to the body of the hut. And it may cast a little shadow like that. So yeah, it's crazy with these sort of shadows how much you can make an object look so much more 3D. The only thing we also need to do is look at how these lines are going to start to affect that door. Because we're looking at a piece of wood but side on, so it's the side of the wood is also going to have a shadow. So what I want to do now is on this layer here with all these green, I'm going to grab that color by holding my finger down and picking out the color that I need. These lines here on the door, we need to create an edge down this side of the door. So let's just do that. Let's go straight down this edge. What went wrong there? Oh, it's alpha locked. Alright, we're going to go straight down this edge here, like so, which is going to give our wood an edge here as well. So that's the shadow it's causing. And then all the wood is always layered on top of each other, but at angles. So we want to try and give that illustration look like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw, let's actually lower my brush to a smaller one I created at the monoline. Create a diagonal line like that. So then we'll do that for each one. So that each wooden slat will look like it layers on top of the other one. So creating a diagonal line on each one. So it goes up into a point a bit narrower. So it's wider at the bottom, narrower at the top. So then when you go all the way up, you're creating that 3D panelled look of wood. That's good. Now by doing this, I have signed up to then be having to do it on all the other beach huts as well, and all the panels on every single one. So yeah, we should see how that all pans out for the rest of it. Like I said, this is just something I wanted to draw. I wanted to, when I saw the photo I took, I thought, yeah, that'll make a cool illustration. The thing is with this as well is like learning to take a photo and turn it into something minimalistic, is learning how can you simplify it? Like what can be taken away? Like I've taken away the hinges on the wood of the doors. I've taken away the numbers. You know, it's how I always say is like looking at it as if what are the shapes involved in the objects, and then how do you need to then replicate that. So that wood now, to me, gives a lot more of a 3D look to that door, but enough that it's not too much. What I also want to do is potentially grab it and nudge it up or down a few pixels like we did with the big door. Just a little bit to make it look like this bit of wood is is higher up. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Now what we could also probably do, this is a little thing you can do with wood panels sometimes, is let's just duplicate it. And then on the top one, we're going to alpha lock it and add in our brighter color, which is the light green here. And then we're going to fill that in. We're going to drop it underneath out the two. And then if we grab our cursor, I've told you this trick before, if you tap twice, I've moved it up now 2 pixels, and what you end up with is like a small highlight and a shadow. So you nudge it up 2 pixels to create the highlight, and then because you've already got a shadow there, you end up with like a really lovely highlight on the wood. So let's see how that looks on the actual beach hut wood as well. The problem is though, we don't have a lighter colour to bounce off of it, so we're actually going to have to use white. So let's alpha lock, oh it already is. Let's go and just select straight white and fill that in. Drop that underneath our shadow colour, and then double tap. We want to tap 2 pixels up, and now we actually end up with a highlight on every single panel of wood, which you might struggle to see a little bit, but it's definitely there. Will look a lot better on maybe these yellow ones because it's a bit of a brighter color. So having said that, actually these are like really, how can I put it, this is very close to white, but it's a little bit green. So I tell you what, I'm going to take your opinions on this, guys. Do I make the green one? So what we need to firstly identify what it is I'm talking about. This beach hut here has a lot of yellow tones going on. The main wood of the beach hut is really yellow in comparison to this one here that's got a very subtle white but green tinge to it. So question is, do we make the pink one and the yellow one match up in terms of the green one, where we use a much whiter yellow and a much whiter pink? Or do we make the main body of this beach hut more green, more in line with these two? I will let you decide in the chat while I have a swig of my drink. So put a 1 if you think I should make the green one fit in with the yellow and the pink. Or put a 2 if you think I should make the yellow and the pink one fit more in line with the green. And then I'll let you know what I think as well. Maybe my vote will be the casting one. I don't know. Second cough of the night. Lovely. This is just really a test to just see if everybody's still awake. Anybody there? One, which was make the green one fit in with these ones. Roger. Right, so let's look at the good thing you can do here is look at where the disc sits for the color. So this is the yellow of the body of this, and then let's look at the green one, and you can see how close it is to white in comparison to this one here and this one here that are more in of making. You can see where these two sit on the spectrum, but this green bugger, let's delete that. This one here is far too close to white. So the green sits there, but yellow sits all the way over here. So this green needs to sit technically here. So it matches. So you end up with the same tones. So let's just chuck that down there for a second and then drag that in. And now it fits. Now it fits in with the others. So let's go for that. Right, let's copy the same changes we made on that one over to here. And then all the shading, etc. See how we go. So we need to add that drop shadow first. So big 30% shadow in here. Let's drop it straight down to 30. And let's mimic this line. Let's go back to the monoline brush. Let's go across here. I've got to be careful not to make this too big. If you make it too big, it's not gonna, the angle won't sit right and match up to the, it'll make it look like it overhangs too much. I think that looks about right. You can always trim it down afterwards. That's looking good. Yeah, I like that one. Magic. Let's grab the door, duplicate the door, and we've got to do exactly the same tricks for every single thing we did on that one over here. It's a shame we can't duplicate the hut, but the angles are all different in every single one, so. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's cool. Thank you, Chrissy. I appreciate that. Shading looks sick. That's always my, so that always is my favorite part of drawing, is the shading and the highlights and bringing it to life. This shadow's actually technically incorrect. It needs to go further outwards. It actually needs to meet the edge of the wood. That's technically correct. Yeah, shadows and highlights is my favorite bit all the time. It just makes everything come to life. And it's the funnest part because you get to see your designs start to just change and evolve, like become the thing you want it to be. That's why I think a lot of my tutorials, to be honest, end up involving like a really maybe intense shading section at the end in some ways. I actually just want to nudge this up 2 or 3 pixels. Yeah, that's cool. Same thing on the door again. Let's nudge the door up a few pixels just to give it a different angle to... Oh, I'm on the wrong layer, I think. To the wood around it. Make it stand off from its background a bit more. How did you become familiar with the tools on Procreate? Messing around with it or watching tutorials? Dude, I was exactly the same as everybody else. I watch tutorials just the same as everybody does when they first get Procreate. I learned the tools. However, the only advantage I had with this is my day job requires me to use Photoshop every day anyway. So I already understood the concept of layers, which is something a lot of people struggle with. So I already understood how they work, like stacking and stuff. These lay angles, by the way, are wrong. Now I've fixed it, that wood's actually sit correctly now. So yeah, I already do all of that stuff. Let's just make sure my screen doesn't turn to yellow. There we go. Little night shifting. So yeah, I already understood a lot of those things, which was, like I said, a good advantage. But yeah, I did all the tutorials the same way, and once you understand how the program works in a way, that's when you can really start to get creative with it, because you understand what it is it can do. But please hear me when I say it, you can never stop learning with Procreate. In terms of, it's the same with the tools that I use day in day out, like Photoshop. There's things you do day in day out which are pretty straightforward, but then there's, like, every time you draw, you maybe do things in a slightly different way, or slightly, you find a new way of maybe shading, or a new way of yeah, maybe let's say shading and highlights, which is what I kept doing with the Procreate tutorials when I first learned to use Procreate. Is I would watch a tutorial, and you're watching it just because you want to complete the design, but you also, the amount of times, and you'll be sat there and go, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Like, I didn't realize you could do that to get to that point quicker, sort of thing as well. So there's loads that can be learned from watching how people use it, the little tips and tricks. Like, I always have the brush cursor on, so if I make my brush really big, you can see a circle around my brush, which is something I saw in somebody's tutorial, and I was like, whoa, that is really useful, and turned that on straight away, and helps a lot with like shading and stuff. So although, like I said, you'll probably know like 95%, let's say, of like what the person, the tutor is trying to teach, and you understand it, you just want to get to the end point. Along that way, you will pick up bits and bobs that will really help with just learning how it works. So, dished, that's what I would suggest, mate. It makes so much difference from a flat picture to something that stands out. This is why I think your tutorials are amazing. Thank you, Chrissy. I really appreciate that. And Julie is here. Great to have you back, Joe. Even though your timing was inconvenient for me tonight, lol. What have I missed? Julie, I have been working on turning. Let's have a look where we started, guys, and then we can see where we're up to. This photo I took this weekend, being my first weekend of freedom post-COVID, me having it. This was my first weekend of freedom after isolation, and I took this yesterday evening, and thought, I mean, I've cropped in quite a bit on it, but it was these three that stood out to me, that would actually make a really simple but very simple and minimalistic illustration, and I could do whatever I want in the sky. I could even turn it into like a poster style, something like that. I drew out all of the shapes traced on top, which like I explained earlier, something that you can do in digital format, and I don't believe is incorrect, unless you're then, if you're using it to create the guide for what you're going to use, I think you've got no problem. And now we are up to the point of that this is the last one that's got to be done, but this particular hut hasn't had its shading and highlights added in, and little things such as adding in these little sort of angular lines which make the wood look like it's stacked sideways. So that's what we're up to at the minute. So just working on all of that. Also realized, reality, I should probably flip these lines and make them go down the side of the hut as well, because they would always match up like that. So I don't want to leave this completely dark green, likewise here yellow. I could if I want to, but we'll see what it looks like if I make those lines go down the side as well, just because that's what it would do. So that's what we're up to. That's what you've missed. I'm not happy that you've not been here from the start, but you're here now, so that's all that matters. Hey Joel, just joined. Love your work. Your tutorials have helped me lots in my Procreate journey. That's awesome, and I am honoured to be part of your Procreate journey and learning how to use this fantastic piece of software. Cool. Did I forget anything that I did here? Over here? Don't think I did. I think we nailed it. I think it looks alright. Do you know what though? That's one thing I love quite a lot about this Procreate and me being a content creator for this is I know where I was when I started to learn how to use Procreate, and to know that I am also part of other people's journeys is mad. Like, no other word for it. It's just mad. It's really rewarding. So that's something I'm quite proud of, you know, at times as well. You know, just to realise that you're part of someone else's journey, and how far that goes. Again, I learned how to use Procreate from other content creators, so if I inspire somebody else to also become a content creator and they becomes a YouTuber or a TikToker or whatever, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. Thanks for the recap. Glad you're feeling better. What have you done to your finger? That was me just trying to be responsible and do my recycling. I was washing up some tin tomatoes and sliced the tip of my finger. And I tell you what, it's the most annoying thing with Procreate, because I'm constantly trying to double tap, but with this little bit of fluff on the end of my finger, I can't undo anything. So I've got to improvise, and 3-finger redo is also very much something I've got to improvise. So. Oh, Christy with the shots fired back at Julie. Gee. Right, let's add in that shadow again as we did in the others. Just make sure we can make that pop. I'm actually going to start from up here instead and make my way across. And then maybe just sit there. Thank you, Miss Kidium. I am. Thank you. I think I repeat myself a little bit too much, and I hate to think that people get bored of hearing me. But I say it all the time on live streams, how mental it's all been. But still, just is mental how quickly it's all grown and stuff. Added in those shadows again, like we've seen before, just makes things pop. So that's helps this come along quite a bit. Now let's debate. I don't believe we should have these dots on here. There's no dots on any of the others. Also, I think I need to change the style, because this beach hut doesn't match the other beach huts. They match exactly the same. We have this line down the edges, and then that's it, and then the wood. We don't have these dots. Now the beach hut itself had the dots. It maybe I need to I think I have to literally start this one again and add those lines in one more time, because they just don't match the rest of the style. Joker, how dare you start too early? Don't side with Julie. Okay, I'll start this again. The lines on it anyway. I also really like it without any lines. I think it just looks really cool and minimalistic. The only thing that bugs me is I copied the door perfectly, which was this, had this little bump here, but I don't like it now. This song's annoying because I feel like somebody's just nattering over us. Should we change the genre? Hey, Chrissy, don't forget you can use your custom emotes in the chat. So, because you're a YouTube member, you can use the custom emotes now in there. If you type in ;procreate : you'll get one of them. There we go. you've got the build the color up. You've got the Terry Crews, because I always say making my way, which gets all of you patrons excited every time. There's Procreate as well you can type in, and there's also Joel Create. But I'm going to do some more in the future as well. But, you know, these are those things I think we build up as we go, don't we? You know, the sayings and everything like that. I always say fruit, like when Julie gets in here and starts getting a bit fruity. I always say fruity to keep it PG. So maybe we create a fruity emoji in the future. I don't know, but I can keep creating them and keep adding them to the YouTube membership. So we you have those to use now. Because I can see your badge next to your name as well, which you should be on. I think you're like midway through your first month, so your badge icon beside your name will actually change next month automatically to the new one. There you go. There's the other ones. So let me know if there's any others you want, and I'll definitely get them mocked up. I need to just turn off all these layers now and go backwards on myself. Just turn off these. Let's go back, and we're going to have to do the lines. I think those emojis and stuff are really cool on YouTube. They it's just, I wanted to create the YouTube memberships just in case people just want that loyalty badge and they're not fussed about anything else, sort of thing. They can have that loyalty badge and you know, be able to just flex that in the chat and stuff. So here we are. Could you guys tell that in my latest could you guys tell in my latest tutorial that my throat was a bit sore, and I was trying desperately not to start having a coughing fit and then have to like pause recording. Hey Julie, you won't ever get your requests now with OnlyFans shutting down all that fruity behaviour on the website. You'll never get a Joel Create OnlyFans. Chrissy, the badges as they get better look really cool beside the name, so I can see what they like look like while I'm designing them. And the gold, silver, bronze ones look so cool. Like the gold one, I know it's 2 years to be fair, but they look so cool beside the names. That's better. Those lines are loads better. And then we turn everything back on. We just need to work out now what needs to be adjusted, which is really the body here. I think I'll just adjust. It's probably the quickest way of doing this now. Then we zoom in and get rid of all the content we don't need from this shadow now. So this is what I've said very beginning, is nail your shapes down first and take a look at your drawing. It's kind of hard sometimes on a live, but if I'd have seen this prior, it should have been something I should have attended to first thing, and then I wouldn't have had to redo it. But luckily I can still get away with doing it at this point rather than slightly later on in the design. So now if I turn those back on, turn the photo back off, we're all matching now. That looks better, loads better. And we need to drop that underneath here and then duplicate that and put it on the door as well. And then grab my cursor and just expand these lines up a little bit more for for the angles of the wood and stuff. Let's move that up. Lost my income throw. I thought you sounded pretty good for just having recovered. Thank you. Yeah, I was a bit. I'm jinxing myself now. Chrissy, there's not yearly memberships on YouTube. There's yearly memberships on Patreon. You can sign up to a whole year and you get a discount as well now. I can't remember what percentage it is. I think it might be like 10 or 15%, somewhere in between there if you sign up to a whole year. There's that, but not on YouTube, not on memberships, unfortunately, because the YouTube memberships work that the longer you stick at them, the more rewards you get in terms of like the different badges and stuff. So you can't sign up for a year and jump straight to bronze, for example. I quite like this EDM station for music, but it's sometimes it can be a bit nuts, kind of. Right, let's get all the rest of these shadows in. The door, same thing. Get black, double tap, drag that in, lower it down. Add those little drop shadow there, and then the lines on the door I have to go back in and add the angularness so it looks like wooden pieces of wood. Yeah, they only give it to creators, Christy, on Patreon when they've been on the platform for a while, so I'm glad that they deem me worthy. Yeah, a whole year. And I think you pay the tier that you're on in a whole year's worth. So if you're on the, I can't remember what tier you're on, but for example, say if you're on the £3 one, you'll obviously just pay a year's worth of that. So it's pretty good. Just adding in these pieces of wood now. I lost a few patrons through being off. I'm not sure why. I don't know if they were just naturally gonna go anyway. But every month I lose some, but I gain more than I lose, which is great because we're heading towards that 100 goal every month. But yeah, I lost a couple, but it's okay. I always know it's a possibility. And people's circumstances change and stuff as well, so it is what it is. Oh, I love this every time. Just double tap it up and then you get the white highlight there as well. It looks so clean. Like I said earlier on, for me, all my tutorials are almost the same in the sense that I absolutely love the highlights and shadows stage, because it just makes everything come to life. Like, you've drawn everything in, the shapes, you put the time in to draw. That is bugging me. And then you add the highlights and things just come to life so much more. Main players are still here for not. Yeah, I know. Listen, like I said, I know people's circumstances change and stuff, and that's cool. To be honest with you, I just always, you guys know how appreciative I am of everybody. So I know as long as they come around for a bit, that's awesome. And like we were talking about it earlier, people when you see different content creators and they maybe post a certain tutorial that month or that week, and you're like, I need to get this, like I have to complete this tutorial, and yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm loving the lines. The lines here look very clean, and then now that we've fixed this beach hut, we've got those lines all going in the same direction. Things are nicely flowing, and you get like your eye line is being sent down the design, which is looking really clean. So now I want to just see what I could do with maybe adding in some extra highlights. Because the thing is, like, at this point, you could leave it. I've got a few blues and stuff that I wanted to do in the sky. So I tell you what, I'm going to do that first. Create a group for that. And we can start to add in some different styles of the sky. So these colors actually get lighter, darker even. So maybe we need to... I had this idea of like doing like really clean skyline like that. Why did that not do that? Come on, Joe. There we go. So something maybe like that, and then build the layers up backwards. But will you still remember us when you're famous? Never be famous, and I don't particularly want to be honest. But yes, absolutely. Do you know what? I think it might have been Laura I was talking to about this on a live stream once. I can't wait until like we're a year into all of this, and you guys can like just say you were here and stuff, and you know, we have those year-long subscribers and supporters, so that's gonna be really fun. I think these colors are too dark, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I like them. Yeah, they've darkened it up far too much. Okay, so I don't like the darker colors. That's fine. Maybe we experiment with... maybe a simple gradient and like create an orange based off of some of these colors in here. Let's just see how that looks. So create a new layer. And maybe something simple, like in this style, I would draw a line that matches the angle of all the huts like that. And then just Gaussian blur it. So grab the blue for the background color, which I think is this one. So you create like just literally a diagonal and then just Gaussian blur it and see where you end up with it. That looks pretty clean. That looks really clean. That Terry Crews emoji is so cool. Yeah, you guys hardened me up ready for this YouTube stuff, so in a year's time when there's 1 billion people in this live stream, I'll be able to take all the criticism. That Terry Crews is so cool. And Zoom meeting, yeah. Need to get those sorted for New Year's or something. We didn't figure out a fan name. I mean, I like, you know, I kind of like something maybe clean of this, like, the Joel Create family. But it doesn't symbolize joining a group of some sort. So maybe we do need to work on the name still, or a name of some sort. Oh, damn. Actually, let's undo this. Can I go all the way back and get all those shapes back in? Let's do this. Let's do the same thing I just did. Let's just try merging all those layers into one and then Gaussian blurring it and see where we end up with that. It's too dark. That's just a simple fact. It's too dark. So what if we... That looks kind of clean. Let's just lighten the palette. That's coming to life a lot. I kind of like that. Yeah, Miss Kate. I only started YouTube on 14th of January. I created a TikTok New Year's Eve for New Year's Day, and then it did okay. I created another one, did even better. A couple of TikToks took off, basically. Got a very big following on TikTok. And then everybody pestered me for tutorials, so here I am. Right, I like the sky, but I don't know how I feel about this colour down the bottom here. Oh, this redo and undo is really painful with this, not painful, but not like actual pain, but it's annoying with the thingy on the screen. I think I just want to focus on some lighter shades. I think they're just too... I want to end with the light colour. So this colour here, I want to end with it so that the sky has a few lines in it, but it's not too much. Let's try and mess around with these a second. Yeah, I can't, less than a year then, so we're only a short while into this. Sometimes minimalistic skies can be quite tricky to keep it minimal and not do too much, but also work out what's enough and what's too much. Like this color here is too. So I think if I got away with just literally just dragging these tones in, we end up with like a bit of a sky, but then it's not blue enough to me. Try and drag that in there. See, that looks kind of good. And then maybe we could get away with the lighter, really, really light shades in between, maybe. Which I think it already is. So you might not be able to see that too much, but I'm really trying to work out what colors I like. I like this style of cloud though. I'm with Chrissy on this one, but again, just working out what is the right combination here. Actually, maybe the background color is the problem. If we go darker there. Let's make a lighter version of this. Too light. Light, dark, middle color. So let's grab the new middle color. And then the background color, that's too dark. You know what, I quite like that. I quite like that. But I think we could definitely... Okay, let's just flatten that down. Let's try and do something with like the layer options, because I think we could add a really smart gradient in the sky here. So let's like drag a bit of this pinky sort of color here. Let's drop in some of the yellow up here, and then let's go for strokes of orange maybe as well in here. Something like that. Let's go a bit wide with the Gaussian blur. Something like that. And then let's go through the layer options and just see how that affects the sky. I know colour will definitely work for this. Hue, that looks pretty smart. Maybe if we lowered that down even. Miss K, it probably won't be a tutorial to be honest with you, because this something like this just takes so long. I mean, maybe actually, maybe it could be. Yeah, a new colour would look good because it would add in a lot of that. So let's then go to the blues maybe, and just add in a lot of the blue in these spaces down here. Fade that. See, the blue looks good down to like there, and then leave the whole night sky. What do we think? I think maybe I'm overthinking it. It's meant to be minimal. I mean, to be honest, it actually looks better, to be honest, in my opinion, like that. With, let's go for like a huge glow in the top left hand corner. Oh, it's far too big. We do the dot. Actually, tell you what, let's just go straight to white so it's really prominent. Uniform that up. Create that glow up there. That's it. That's what I should have done, because that matches the lighting. We end up with a somewhat sun look up there. That's what it should have been the whole time. Right, so what I said earlier on is I wanted to keep it minimal at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings, I'm going to save it as a JPEG, save the image, we're done. Now I'm going to go nuts with it. I wanted to mess around with some really crazy textures. So let's duplicate that. So we've got the original and this one, so we can jump straight back to there. And now let's start messing around with maybe some textures in the sky. Let's add in, I want to add in some really fun textures in the huts. So let's have a look at what we've got. We need to look into the brushes that I've got, because what I essentially want to do is create like clipping masks, maybe in like black and white and stuff, in like patterns. So I think I had some up here. Being a paper-like ambassador, or whatever you want to call it, I get access to some pretty cool brushes as well, which they just give us for free, which is pretty cool. They gave us loads. I'm not sure any of these will work for what I want to do. I wanted like actual patterns. Yeah, there we go. This is the stuff I like. Crazy colors and whatnot. So let's give this wood. That looks cool. And then let's actually use the correct color. Let's alpha lock that and fill that in with the correct color. I wanted to mess around with just some abstracty sort of styles. So maybe if I just alpha lock all the shapes and then just add in the textures on top. And then let's just add in some highlights on there maybe. I want to have some fun with it at this point. An hour-long tutorial would be great though. I would happily sit and follow this until the end. Oh, that's cool. Well, maybe, you know, I've got the template here essentially. I can work out at this point what I can learn to cut down and how I can minimize this for somebody else to follow along with. So I'll bear it in mind. Let's just go with white. Let's go. Oh, I'm working on this bit. This one. Sometimes, like Julie saying that you love these brushes, I find it really hard to use brushes like this because I like a clean aesthetic to everything, and then using a brush like this is just like throws me out of my comfort zone a bit too much. But these are the things I said earlier on that you've got to learn to do sometimes, just to go out of your comfort zone and learn to do things in maybe a slightly different way for that next tutorial and stuff. So that's cool. Let's add in a highlight on the top. So what I'm doing at this point is I'm adding in the textures, and I'm also adding in highlights, like very strong highlights like that. So like a really punchy white. I want to really exaggerate them a lot now. Damn. Went off the page there. And maybe we do each beach hut in like a slightly different style maybe. So let's now look at let's go for the body first. So we have to just one up the shadows. Sorry, once more. Getting out of your comfort zone helps you grow. Exactly. And you know, if I might do something one day that's so everybody loves that, you know, make a crazy tutorial out of it and it benefit the whole channel. So let's alpha lock this. Let's add in. Okay, I quite like that, but let's. I feel like that might be a bit too much though. So I think what I might do is just create a new layer and a clipping mask so I can just adjust the percentages of the brushes, just so I can be in control of the harshness. Oh, what an absolute banger of a tune. I agree, get out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. So where did you go to take the picture once you were released from the bedroom? Just down to the seafront nearby to where I live. Because I live very close to the seafront, so very blessed. I'm a water baby, 100%. Okay, cool. I'm actually going to mess around with some of these spirals, some of these triangles, all these different shapes. See how we get on for all of the different beach huts. Let's pinch those together. Let's create a new layer. Let's use the dark yellow. Is that the dark yellow? Yeah, it is. I think I'm going to create like 3 different versions of this because I think I want to create a night version of this as well. So like some really harsh night sky would look really cool. Do is just put that highlight in first, and then I can put the shadow on top of it and keep the highlight nice and thin. Oh, that's cool. So this is a bit obviously different for me, and there's sort of crazier style and aesthetic, but like we were just saying, definitely a good thing sometimes to do that. Just mess around. So the only thing I don't like, right, this one's not so bad because of the way the textures work, but these spirals, they're like facing me. They're not facing, so they're facing straight up at the camera essentially, rather than tilted the same way that the beach hut is. So I'm gonna completely get rid of that layer. I'm gonna do it again, but I'm going to put some perspective in it this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer above. I'm not going to clip it yet. I'm going to go back up to the brush. I'm going to paint in a huge area with that texture, and then you're going to grab your cursor, and then we're going to grab the distort tool and then use these to just change the angle of the twirls so that now they should face the same way as the beach hut. Now when I go to clipping mask, now the angles match a lot more. So that's something that bugged me, because what the actual building itself is facing one way, but the print, in a sense, is facing the wrong way. Julie, I think our minds were talking exactly the same way there. I think we were both thinking of the distort option. I'm actually going to go really harsh with the shadows on this one this time, now that I've redone it. Something quite dark like that looks pretty sweet. We're going to repeat the same process then for the body of the great minds think alike. Let's do the same for the body. So let's go back up to that brush set, create a big canvas of it, grab the distort tool, then we clip it. That's cool. And then maybe we just lower the opacity down a tad just to line up with the other one here. And I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to duplicate for the door, but then I'm just going to pick a different part of the pattern, like here or something. We're going to carry on. It's hurting me a little bit to have so much chaos in this, but we're going to carry on, see what it comes out like. I'm going to trust the process. The roof could do with having something on it though as well. So where is that layer? There. Let's go for the super dark version of it, create a nice big canvas worth, and then let's there we go, so something like that maybe. And then let's actually go for a really dark, no, that's fine. Oh, definitely, it really definitely pains me to use so much detail. Not a detail, but in a brush that just is just nuts. Goes against my like simplistic style and nature and preference. So now I'm going to grab my cursor, I'm just going to flip it horizontal and then drag that into that space over there. Let's make that slightly darker. Let's actually just make it black. I want to check this up on Instagram and just be like, which one do you prefer? I think that would just be really comment engaging. Oh, okay, cool. You like it. That's cool. The thing is, we've done all the hard work, like all the highlights and stuff. We don't need to do much about it. We're just applying a print to it. So anyway, last one. We can now go ahead and find a third option. Fingers crossed I'm not about to run out of layers either. Let's just check. Let's go to the actions, canvas information, layers. Oh, we've got 28 left. We've got loads of layers, loads and loads of layers. Right, let's create a new layer again. So we've done the swells, we've done these sort of ones up here. So maybe we use these variable weave. I think that looks pretty cool. So green, let's grab let's do the body of the hut first. Grab the cursor. Down. Let me just create a new layer right at the top a second. Guys, let me know if this music is annoying you as well. Like, I can happily change it to something else. to be honest with you, I kind of occasionally listen to it and get involved with it, but otherwise I'm not really listening too much. If you want something a bit more chilled out, just let me know. Okay, this is actually quite a nice print for this one. I definitely will be doing this with my finished pieces from now. Okay, I'm going to show you just real quick while we're on the topic of potentially like adjusting other designs. Let me just quickly drag this into position and I'll show you what I always do at the end of a design. So we're going to clip that to that. The green itself is too much, so we're going to lower that down. That's cool. Okay, so what I always do at the end of a design every single time is collapse everything down. I'll go right up to the top, and then with 3 fingers I'll swipe down, and then you get this copy paste menu. Now what I always do is I will go copy all, then 3 fingers again, and I'll go paste. And then what will happen is you'll get your entire design but on one image here at the top. So one thing I always do at this point is I would always go to the layer options with it at the top, and then let me move it over to the left hand side so you can see. I always go to my layer options, start at the top, and I scroll through, because sometimes you'll get something that looks slightly different to what you were anticipating, and you know, some of them are naff admittedly, because it depends on your type of design. Essentially everything from like multiply down to normal will darken your image in some way. And then everything from lighten all the way through to like overlay will typically tend to brighten your image in some way. And then everything down here will also then start to play in with like colors and highlights. You'll get something like exclusion, pretty different. But that's something I always do. So for me, I actually quite liked when I first saw it, is multiply. I like the way it darkens the sky. You get a lot more color in there. I kind of like the darkness. And then you can simply just mess around with the slider as well. If you just want to apply a tiny bit to darken the image, you could add in a tiny darker part. Now what you can also do is, let's say I didn't like any of those layer options. That's cool. You can simply go up to adjustments, and then you can go to, let's say, gradient map. Let's go layer. Now gradient map, it has a bunch of gradients here that will apply on top of your image. Kind of like, maybe like old school Instagram filters in a sense, but you tap on like Mystic and you get these like really cool, huge color change obviously, but you get some really cool effects, and you can just tap your way through all these beautiful, I mean, okay, wow. I mean, to be honest with you, I prefer that right now than I do my own design, because I like the colors. It also, you're applying these colors here in the gradient library. So what you're doing is you're already applying a color palette to your design, and essentially all it's doing is picking out your highlights and it basically makes the image black and white, but then applies all your color on top. So everywhere you've like shaded in and highlighted will remain the same, but we're applying the color on top. It's kind of hard to explain in that sense, but Venice here looks amazing. Like, I'm probably going to save that afterwards and pop that on Instagram as a different version. And then you can just make your way through. I mean, Blaze looks pretty cool. Neon looks, you know, it's not that type of design to go for neon. Noir looks very cool. Marker, no, I don't like that. But Blaze gives a really beautiful orange look to it. Okay, this song is too loud. That's actually like deafening me. 2 seconds. That's a bit better. But Venice here is my favorite. It just adds in some oranges and purples, but gives a beautiful look to your style. That's another thing you can do. And then pretty much the third thing I would do, although when I undo that, I quite like that, how it looks still. But it's just another version, just in case. Another thing I will also do is go up to hue, saturation, and brightness, and then the layer option. And here I'll just tinker with a few things. I maybe might just go, what would this look like if I punched out the colors a bit more and increase the saturation? Bit too much for me, so just 2-finger undo. What would it look like if I brightened it? Obviously in this example that looks rubbish, but you know, depending on what type of design you're doing, that's a great way to change. And then hue as well. Now obviously I've got a blue sky in here, and the sky is blue, which is annoying obviously, but the beach huts themselves if I was to drag my way through the hue slider, I get different color groups. So like now my reds turn, or my pinky reds turned into like a very pink purple. And you can slide your way through the hue slider and see if you prefer how they come out. Now, essentially what I could do is if I liked, say, these color tones here instead, I know that I like that, and I could go back and just change all the beach heights and keep the sky blue, and it would be a way that you could adjust some of the colors. So there's 3 pretty good tips really on how, when you're finished with a design, what you can do to just see if there's an enhancement you can add to the image itself, almost like applying filters like on Instagram, like back in the day when they used to be kind of pretty intense, but adding and adjusting your entire image in one go to see if you get a better outcome. Mess around with everything. I mean, sometimes you can get a good like curves change. So curves is kind of, I don't really want to get into how you can adjust it, but essentially you can adjust each color tone because they make up the full spectrum of colors. But if I drag these sliders in here, I'm basically adding more shadow, and if I drag in from the top, I'm adding more highlight. Now we don't want to adjust the highlight because it's already a very white image, but just dragging this across here, I really like how dark the shadows become. So what you're doing is basically bringing in more darkness, and likewise you can drag this anywhere up in the image, but yeah, I like dragging that in here, and I think that actually looks better, and maybe come the time I come to share it, that's maybe what I'll do. So there's like 4 tips. This music's getting nuts now. It's just getting nuts. It's just, let's go for chill EDM instead. Let's keep it a bit calmer. Jesus, I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to talk to you guys. So yeah, there's like 4 tips, I think, pretty much, maybe more, I don't know, of how you can learn to adjust the image afterwards and just give it that final few tweaks here and there. Also, learn to like mix them together as well, because mixing certain ones together, you'll get a much nicer outcome. Like if you adjust your hue, saturation, and brightness and stuff like that at the beginning, and then go into your like gradient maps, you may get a much cooler look to it. So yeah, some nice helpful tips there. That's what I always do at the end of my design, and to be honest with you, having looked at my image now and what I'm looking at, I will definitely probably apply some of those at the end. Oh, little thing as well, actually, if I just go back to the gradient map and then layer, you can create your own gradient. So this gradient here was one I created. So for example, you just hit this plus here at the top, it will create a new gradient, and then you can control how many colors. You simply tap along the spectrum and you can just change each color on the gradient to whatever you want. Now obviously I'm going pretty nuts here, and creating quite an interesting look to this, which actually kind of looks kind of cool in some aspects, but you can create your own gradient. Now that's obviously a wild example, but let's say for example you can hold down on these and get rid of them, so you can have just maybe 2 points instead. In my example right now, I would probably go for like maybe like an orange and maybe like a white, maybe a yellow, and then work out how we can to flip them around. So maybe drag them that way and that one this way, and then let's make this a bit whiter, and you get like a really cool sepia look. I mean, that actually looks pretty cool like that, where you get that really retro sepia look, sepia. If I make that like a dark brown like that and hit done, I've got like a really cool vintage sort of look to it. So that's something you can do as well. You can apply your own gradients. So let's get back to applying, I think it was this texture, wasn't it, onto all these items here. So we're not going to create a layer there. We're going to create a new layer first with the darker color, and then apply that to the door, because we want to grab the distort option, flatten the angle, peak the angle, But Miss KDM, that's a prime example of what I was saying a second ago. Is you probably, let's say hypothetically, you knew everything I spoke about in this live stream up until that point there, but at one point in the video there may be something you didn't know, and therefore you pick up on it, and that then you apply into every design or a design in the future that you make. So that's why I always say, and somebody asked about earlier, you know, how did I get into it and learn everything about Procreate? It's by doing the tutorial. So fingers crossed that helps, and you can apply some really cool effects to your designs. Because I always believe, I don't believe that your image is done when you think you're done. There's always maybe one tweak here and there. Also, people do that all the time as well to make sure it fits in with their Instagram vibe. So if like your feed is very like white and bright, you can create a adjust your image to maybe fit your feed a bit more. Because I know people like to do that, don't they? Where like they have an aesthetic look to their whole feed. Excuse me. Oh, that does look really like an old photo. Definitely will be doing all of these. Thank you. You are very welcome, and I'm happy to help. I'm glad I can help. Let's add in the highlights as well, because I realised I've not added in the same as the other ones. And then I'm going to do some in the sky maybe. And then I'm going to try a different style, because like I said, I want to try something that's maybe a bit bright, a bit darker, maybe like a nighttime variation. Because again, just because you created your shapes in your design for, in this instance, for daytime, doesn't mean that that's it. You can then duplicate the file, the canvas, and create a nighttime version of it. So you can create a day and night. Because I know I personally prefer a darker aesthetic, so I would most likely prefer always the nighttime version of an image rather than the daytime version. So let me just do one thing that I've realised I've missed, which is the side section here of this beach hut. Here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go to grab the distort tool just to create an angle in that pattern a little bit more. Then lower that opacity right down. Excuse me. Okay, cool. That's looking pretty wild. So now what we could do is get rid of the gradient in the background, those sort of skylines, and maybe add in with a brush some sort of crazy sort of pattern in the sky, like these triangles. And then maybe grab my layer options. Oh, I quite like overlay. That adds a lot of texture in there quite quickly. Okay, let's just turn that layer off and come back to it. Let's try a different pattern in here. Annoyingly, I quite like the 12s, but we used it in the other one. Now this one we used... I think we used this one here, so I don't think I used this one. So maybe let's try painting the entire... Damn it. This brush, you got to keep your pen down and fill in the whole canvas in one go. I actually really quite like that. The sky looks kind of cool. It's got a different aesthetic to it. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, I like that. What do you guys reckon? Can you see the texture in there? I think you can, yeah. Some very like old school, very abstract look to it. So again, there's other things we can do with this. So what I always like, and I want to show you on this beach hut here, is you can apply gradients within the textures. So what we're going to do is let's find the main texture for the... Okay, let's do the door, because that's going to work quite nicely. And let's just check, is this at 30%? So I'm going to make it 100%. I'm going to show you how to... Because you can apply a gradient to the texture. Because if I alpha lock this, now the texture itself will stay the same. I could go ahead and add in a airbrush within that texture I've already drawn, and create a really cool gradient. So what I actually need to do is I actually need to pick a slightly punchier pink. So something maybe like this. That looks cool. So I know that works. So now let's just circular motion, build up that color. I know I'm like a record sometimes repeating itself. Yeah, I'll do the nighttime one in a second actually, while we're still on. So that looks cool. And now if we repeat that process for say the hut as well, the main hut, maybe we do it at the bottom here instead, we can apply gradients within there. So I actually don't like that, as in I want to get an even punchier red. Let's just check the opacity of this. Yeah, I did think it was a bit low. So if I apply this color here at the bottom, and then maybe I even switch out to a very light one up here, create some gradients within that. So I prefer that color tone. Let's make that 100%. Let's add in a gradient of color there. And then this really punchy red down the bottom. And then let's flip the gradient inside the actual beach hut shape. So it starts off red at the top and fades into a light pink at the bottom. Now I don't like that time, so we'll trial and error. But again, you can see what I mean about applying gradients in here. So within your texture itself, so it's not just one continuous texture. I'm going to undo that real quick because I want to get back to where I was, where I can save that. Okay, cool. So this is our crazy version. So maybe I'll come back to that again. There's some really cool effects I could probably put on that now. Again, if we do that as what I mentioned a second ago, 3-finger copy all and 3-finger paste, I think a multiply is going to look really good on this style. It's pretty harsh, but if we lower it down, so I know that will work. So if I change that back to normal, and then we get into our hue and saturation and brightness, I know if I darken that slightly, increase the saturation, and then let's go to my curves, layer, bring in some darker shadows, maybe increase the highlights. No, let's leave that like that. I prefer that than I did the last one. I don't know why I prefer the, if you're going to go crazy with the pattern, I think you need to go crazy with the color, but otherwise this was the original one because it was meant to be vintage to start with, so that's cool. Right, let's go back to the canvas let's go back to the original one and duplicate it, and let's create a nighttime version of this. Now, the only difference really we're going to make is, yeah, Van Gogh, that's the one, Christy, that's the one. The only difference with this is obviously we're going to change it to nighttime, but the moonlight up here is going to still look the same. It's going to be the same angle. So these shadows that we placed in here are actually still correct because the moonlight is creating these shadows this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all the layers we don't need. We still want this sort of glow up here in the top left hand corner. And let's just go to our background color and change it to black straight away. So obviously right now it's looking a bit crazy. Let's lower the glow down because we want it to be subtle up here. And we can now start to work about how we can get some darker tones in here. Now, to be honest, what you could do is actually turn off the background, turn off the glow. And now we've just isolated this image now solely to the beach huts. So what we could do now is just 3-finger copy all, 3-finger paste all. So now we've got just the beach huts on its own separate layer. If I drag them up to the top and actually alpha lock that and fill that layer in, but in black, and then turn on the background color again, turn on the nighttime glow, and now I just lower that opacity down. Straight away you can already see we've darkened all the colors to, we're making minor adjustments at this point, but you can already see that we're like, you could do this as an option and really scroll through your layer options. Is there anything that looks any good? No. But you could just sort of cheat your way in a sense like that, where you could lower the colors down. But what we're going to do is we're going to flip the whole palette on its head. So that's something you can do if you wanted to create a very quick and easy flip. That would be fun. Right, this is going to be interesting. So I had not really planned for this. So we're going to see where we go with this. First of all, the shadows are not going to be as bright. So let's actually get back down to the sky layer. And let's start to fill in our sky so we can get an idea for what it is we want to achieve. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to grab white. I'm going to draw in a moon. And then maybe position that, let's say like up there, maybe duplicate it and grab a big Gaussian blur from it. And then go to, is it add? Will add even do anything at this point? No. Let's go to just normal, lower that down. Let's add some color in the sky because I always like to add in a bit of blue. So let's grab a dark blue. Make a dot in the middle so we can add in a big spectrum of blue in the sky. I always, for some reason, I always like to just add in the stars. For some reason, the stars to me always set it off. Like, it makes me feel like it's actually part of what it is I'm trying to do. Like I'm that nightscape. So let's just add in my favorite Stickle collection and just add in some dots in there. Van Gogh, except loses the tip of his finger instead of an ear. Exactly. So I always, like I said, for some reason, the second I add the stars in the sky, I start to visually get a good understanding of what it is I'm drawing. Let's add in some really small ones. Lately, my preference has been a much fuller night sky, so adding in a lot more of these sort of small dots in the gaps and filling out the image a lot more, giving yourself lots of bright white dots. Fingers crossed you can see all of that. I think you can. Now for the moon, you could actually do something here where I like the position of it, that's fine. Let's just create one more duplication of it where the bottom one underneath it is a tiny bit blurred, so you get a very close glow around it. But but then also on the actual moon itself, we could, I don't know, maybe create a new layer and clip it to it and change it to black, but make that layer very, very light. We're talking like 10%. And then grab, let's say, could maybe grab like the watercolor collection maybe, and grab, say, wash or wet sponge. And then just tap away with the watercolor sponge, which will then start to give you like those sort of moon-like craters and stuff. So you can see, can you see that if I zoom in? You can see the color, like the sort of, I'm creating like mini texture in the moon by just tapping away with this watercolor brush, and that will make it look a bit more realistic, like that. Right, now let's start looking at how we can look at our palette. The problem with so I obviously created the palette initially to be light. We now need to work out how we can go about creating this and making it darker. So I'm actually going to duplicate the palette. So wait, how could I do that? I suppose I could just create a new palette, grab the color, and let's just see how we can go about making it darker, as long as I use this view. So we kind of want to look at where our disk is and like kind of go diagonal opposite. So like here, maybe drag that into there. Now that's too dark, so we just need to, being nighttime, you're going to see a lot of prominent color. So something in this sort of quadrant might be better. You'll get a subtle bit of color in terms of what it's meant to be, but you won't get see, that actually looks a little bit too. So you're actually going to watch me now go about creating this palette and the process that I'll end up going through, because I'll just I'll do that there and that looks okay. The roof itself just needs to be very dark as well, because that's throwing me off. I might even just set it to black. See, no, I don't like that. And what I'll typically end up doing is actually filling an entire beach hut first, and then go back and see if I like the palette and how it came out. So that pink that I used there is the same one that I've got to use for here too. We need to bear in mind that the highlights and shadows now are also going to have to be darkened. So the highlights, because it's nighttime, need to be dropped down. That's just a fact. So we'll drop it down to about 30% this time. And then let's grab I might even just use black as the highlight, the darker shadow, sorry. And see how that looks. So we're going to work our way through this entire beach hut first, and then see if we can reflect the same color change in the other ones. So we'll grab the color. We're going to then darken it up to something like that. No, don't like that. Now it is white, or close to white, so I wonder if we can get away with like a grey. That looks, it depends on what we want to go for. If we want to go for like a really dark looking beach hut, then we need to bear that in mind. Or it shouldn't be too colourful, because it's still technically really light. So let's mess around with like a light grey. So I'm starting to think that that actually might be fine with the colour that it is, but more of a washed out grey like that. And that door really wouldn't change colour too much. Okay. Let's maybe drop the shadow down for a start, because that moon shadow is not going to be as strong as a sun shadow. So we've still got a little bit in there. Let's actually just work on the lines instead. maybe that will help me visually be able to see it a little bit more. We know the highlights have got to get dropped down because again that moonlight's not strong. So let's say 35% is the marker. I think that these lines here, maybe everything could just do with a slightly darker tone. So this one here goes down a little bit, and let's try that. So let's alpha lock that and fill that layer. Let's do the same on the main body here. Likewise, the highlights have also got to be dropped back down again, which is actually helping to flatten the image down quite a bit. This is interesting. Of where the palette needs to go. We need to drop these down again so the matte numbers will match. Still think that they are too bright. Those shadows are too strong. 8% maybe is the one. Interesting. No. Let's go back to the beginning and take a look at where we can go instead. These shadows here look fine, but for some reason this one doesn't. What I might do is kind of repeat what I did a second ago. So I'm going to change the background and group the background together this time. Turn that off and the background itself. Now when we go to here, let's copy all and paste all again. Paste. But the thing is, what you could do now is the thing. So I want to explain why I've done this because of, and where I think I'm going, and why, if you're watching, where I was maybe struggling in a sense there is, I was trying to work out each individual color individually, which is a problem because, let's turn all this back on. The problem is that, how can I explain this? The best way to do that is apply what you're changing to all the colors. So what I mean by that is I've created that shape again. I'm going to duplicate it just in case I need it again. This one here, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to grab like this dark navy, for example, in the sky, and maybe just blueing that up a little bit. Then if I fill that layer here and then scroll through the layer options, bang, bingo. So what I'm doing there is I'm basically applying the environment to the colors itself on there, not changing the palette up in here individually color by color, because that was never going to work, and I realized that as I was making my way through it. But you can apply layers on top to make your color fit the environment a little bit more. So if I duplicate this maybe a couple of times, we're starting to now understand exactly what it was I was talking about, that can help you get your object into your environment by applying the same colors as the environment around it, which is that if this night sky was not a night sky and it was like a sunset, well, like, oh god, I hit the mic there, sorry. If I was applying if it was a really punchy, let's say like a orange and pinky and purple night sunset, afternoon sunset, I could apply orange, purples, and pinky colors to these, and it would apply them into their area, if that makes sense. I can still go in now and make the adjustments I said I needed to change. Like, these highlights are too strong. I can drop them down to about 65% and do that throughout the entire thing. So drop 65% across the board. Maybe even my shadows could be reduced down as well, so it's not so harsh. Maybe even down to 30%, and just tinker with them now rather than each color. Otherwise, I think I would have been there for a long time trying to suss that out. So, does that make sense? Fingers crossed that made sense to me explaining that. And the reasoning why. Because sometimes changing your palette just to change it for a different surroundings is not the right method. Whereas now we've got like a bluer color hue to this. I need to adjust maybe this yellow, because for some, I think the yellow house itself, the yellow hut, sorry, the colors and how these layer effects work don't apply very well onto that one. And you can apply different layer effects on top of layer effects, if that makes sense. I mean, that looks kind of cool. If that was like really dark, that would actually look really smart. Like a really mono palette. We're not going to go for that though. And even just going up to multiply and then bringing that color back down again looks pretty good. But again, that yellow just needs to be adjusted. We're really darkening up those shadows. And I will go in a second and add highlights into this. And that will make it really fit the moonlight vibe. We're darkening the colors just to match the tones. That's all I want to achieve at this point. Let's turn. So it's gonna look really messy for 2 seconds. So now all I'm trying to do is actually apply some layer effects just to that middle house itself. I mean, maybe even just the body, because I quite like the yellow above. Maybe it's just simply the body of the yellow house that is too bright. So what have I done there? Why did that go skits? And then let's just drag that soul layer down a little bit more into here. And then let's mess around with that, maybe applying a bit more blue under add. That looks a bit better by hewing that to more of a blue color. But it still looks a bit dark. Too bright, sorry. It needs to be darkened. So maybe if I go multiply and lower that down. That's interesting. Okay, let's try that. Let's try that. Let's just do the same thing we were doing before. Let's lower the highlights down. I think, and then lower the shadows down as well. So fingers crossed you saw that process go through and understood why I did that. And you can potentially understand the process that I'm trying to go through here. Because again, I think I said it in another bit earlier on. We've done the hard work of the design. At this point, you can just tinker with what you've got. You don't need to redraw anything. Or again, the palette is a prime example of that. The drop shadow behind the doors, I just realized, is too strong as well. Okay, cool. That's looking a bit better. Let's try and let's look at the pink house here first. Let's alpha lock that. Let's see what we do if we apply white into here. Ooh, you get a really nice light blue color. So maybe we do add a little, this is where it's gonna change again. So we're gonna alpha lock everything and then add in some moon highlights here. And because we've already applied some layers above that are like that blue color, our highlight, even though I'm drawing in complete white, it's drawing in like a blue color, which is lovely because it fits the scene. And it's kind of, in a sense, saving me a job. Lovely. So maybe I can add in a nice moonlit highlight on the edge of the door frame now. So what I'm going to do is now, at this point, I'm going to apply all these things that I just did on this hut to the other one. And I'm going to see where it comes out. Because at this point, I might, I'm going to have to build this one up. Because I already knew in my head where I was going to go, and doing it on the fly for the night times obviously sent it in a different direction. So I will probably just sit back in a second, take a look at it and go, okay, cool. What else would be affected by this? That highlight there was too thick. I need a nice thin highlight like that. Let's go down to the door. That's nice. Oh, sorry. I struggle with the blank canvas a lot. Where do you get the inspiration for your designs? I do have a video up on my YouTube channel for my top 5 tips for finding inspiration. It's all of those things I said in that video still apply to how I currently find my own inspiration. Literally just told you guys literally how I go about thinking of a design and go about creating it. But I also spend a lot of time looking at like literal real life things and just working out when you look at it, what shapes are there, and then you would know how to then start to maybe draw that. But yeah, definitely check out that video, Miss K, on my channel for my top 5 points for inspiration. It'll explain literally the sites I look at and everything like that. What's next? The door? Door, isn't it? Now, I love these blue colours, and me personally, I would probably go a bit crazier with the colour and maybe like punch out the highlights even more. But you can see exactly what it was I was trying to achieve here now by adding in these more subtle moonlit highlights on here, and how it's now starting to really sink in with what we're trying to do. So trying to think what we could do next in terms of what would be my next step, because at this point the highlights I think will could maybe do with being duplicated and emphasized. Now, because we've already applied these colors onto it, what we can now do is, if I turn off the background this time, if I copy and paste again, it will copy and paste all the things we've changed as well. So if I go copy all and then go paste, and then go on my layers and go all the way back up to the top, and all these layer effects that we've been applying over and over again, we will be able to maybe now tinker with getting some more of those highlights to come back through by going through the layer options. So let's take a look. Like that looks great to me. Like, I feel like that really punches out the colors, but also gives out a nice blue hue to everything, but emphasizes those highlights a bit more. So we'll remember that one, color dodge. Oh, I mean, I know that's like a really wild effect, but that looks like midnight, doesn't it? Like proper midnight, no lighting around it at all. Like, to be honest with you, that looks way more realistic with just this moonlight up in the top left hand corner. Doesn't that look cool? Our proper artist brain, I see everything as shapes and shadows now. It's quite funny. If you're already learning to do that, that is perfect, because you'll learn how to then go, when you look at, say, a dog and you want to draw a dog, what's the shapes in its face? And I know that sounds mental, but if you can draw those shapes in, you will get the face structure, everything like that, but also like buildings, landscapes, etc. I'm actually going to save this as a JPEG again as well, because I actually really like that variation. So that's vivid light. Let's go right to the top and just scroll through these darker ones. Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. So color dodge was good. I'm not going to do it again because that's... That looks really cool. I'm actually loving the much darker look to all of this. I think that just looks so much better. Julie, you mentioned there about the stars and stuff. I probably will start to get into animation, by the way, soon as well. I know a lot of the patrons have definitely asked for it. But right now, just for the sake, I think I'm going to go in here. And I might add like a bokeh, maybe, like a bokeh light. So let's actually add the lighting, because it's got to go at the very top. These bokeh lights are really cool. And like drag that down here into this corner. So it's like coming off of the moon. Maybe that's a little effect you could add there. Let's turn that off and try somewhere else. What if we added a flare on that moon? Like a big, let's add in a flare in the center of the screen. Like that. And then scale that right up. I always love those flares. I think they look like real, like transformery vibes. You will if you practice a lot on Wait, sorry, what did I miss? I love that effect so much. Julie, I wish I could, lol. I've started taking more photos of things and hope to be inspired. I don't think... Okay, Miss K, what I will say is, when I first started doing all this Procreate stuff, I didn't look at objects in real life and work out what I'm doing with them. I'll tell you how I learn it is literally just by, like Julie said there, by doing tutorials all the time, because you subconsciously realize what it is you're trying to create. My tutorials always start with drawing the structure of a design, so such as I drew all the beach huts, and then applying highlights and shadows. But that first initial step of drawing the structure of things is where you'll really learn to how to create those shapes and build up the design from the base. It's always working out drawing, like you'll see people draw like paintings. They always draw like the outside, the main part of the face, then like a solid shape for the hair, and then you go in and add highlights and details and so on and so on. But it's like you got to work out how to get that photo maybe all the way to point one, which is the shape. So yeah, definitely, I think Julie nailed it there, to be honest with you. It's doing a lot of tutorials, you'll see how that will start to work out in your mind. But again, I've only really started doing it in probably the last couple of months of looking at things and breaking down. Okay, I think it's because I have to create tutorials. I have to work out what it is I've got to do to create and explain something to somebody else. So yeah, that's a bit of a tip there, I guess. Not sure how I feel about that. Let's leave it there for a minute. I will want to add some extra stars in the sky, like some much brighter ones in here maybe. Okay, this music's actually driving me a bit nuts now. Let's change up the music. Let's go for something completely different. Let's go for, what's this? Ambient. Let's try that. I've been trying to spend lots of time doing tutorials, and yeah, take any advice you can give, really. Cool. I think we're really sort of coming towards the end of it. We can, no, let's add in some. Do you know what would look interesting to see is just slapping a big nebula in here. Just quickly just tinkering with these effects. Let's see. This is the process I typically go through, by the way, of just literally just adding a bunch of stuff, like seeing how it works out, and will it even add anything to your design? It may not. Do you know what, the music today is? It started to like grate on me a little bit. It's really poor. Hang on, I think there's a lo-fi section. Let's try that. Am I jumping the gun by taking real life pics? No, not at all. But I just wouldn't expect you to just look straight at them and then understand how you can break that down. It comes from just practice. Take the pictures and like do what I've done today and literally just trace them essentially, and then create a design from them. But you'll understand the shapes that you've got to create from that, exactly like we were just saying. So yeah, maybe try that instead. Don't like this gradient up there. Nope. Tokyo adding it back in, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm actually pretty pleased with that. Let's go to settings and just save that for 2 seconds. Okay, so let's look at what we did today and what I've done and all the different variations. So we had our really clean, minimalistic, could even add the sky in there, which I do quite like now. Daytime scene, I wanted that vintage look. For me, if I was gonna pre-post this, I would maybe copy all and go back and paste, and then go up to those gradients. Maybe I really liked, was it Venice, wasn't it? Venice looked pretty cool. And then maybe just lower the opacity down, but just to get that really warm look to it. It's got more of a vintage look. I feel like that looks really cool. I'm just going to save that as well, just in case. I like the look of it for posting later on. So that was the daytime one, but ultimately it looked like this. Then we had the crazy one with the like very sort of Van Gogh-y maybe look to it. Now I tell you what you could actually do in this example as well is maybe you could distort some of the shapes. So if you wanted to go down that abstract route, let's say for example this sort of V shape here, you could easily go into your adjustments, liquefy and push, and just adjust the shape a little bit. Now this is probably going to look really funny with the what's it called, the effects on top of it, so kind of ignore that. But let's go to liquefy and just push this about a little bit, and you could create this like a much wavier look to your shapes. So if I actually turn off the like that, I know I've just sort of rushed this in a sense, but then maybe you could grab say the roof now Maybe just push that into those gaps just to fill it up. You could create a really like crazy abstract look to your design. So yes, you drew it all out and it was really smooth, clean lines, but go in there and really mess with all the different shapes. Let's go to adjustments and liquefy again. Maybe just mess with the door. You could like really mess that all up quite a bit, but for the minute I'm not gonna go back on all this. Just don't want to accidentally quit out of this. That was the crazy one. Nice, just using cool textures on top of your design that you've already done. And then of course we had our nighttime one, which got really dark, which I just really like that. I think the tones just look awesome. Maybe having looked at it again. Oh no, I didn't do it in the end. Yeah, I think that just looks really cool. Really cool. Real midnight vibe to it. Moon looks pretty cool. Just some different styles. And yeah, so we've got 3 different variations. Now, if you're hanging around right now, at this point, you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek here of some other stuff. So I appreciate you being here. This is a watercolor tutorial that is going to be coming up soon. I'm going to teach you how to take a photo and change it into a stencil essentially, or a way of very quickly being able to draw in all these shapes, and then you can fill it in whatever color you like and go crazy, and then add some nice sort of splatters and this canvas effect on the top. So that's a sneak peek of that one. And then this one is a sneak peek of the Patreon exclusive tutorial that's coming up. So that's a quick look at that one. So we've got a really cool like sort of night sun sky here, which I'll show you how to paint in, and then the night sky as well. And obviously the main focal point is this guy here is painting on the sunny scene, over painting the night scene. So, and this one here's I've already drawn this one. You've already seen it on a previous one. But this one is gonna be a YouTube tutorial as well. I really want to get back to some really minimalistic, simple styles, because that's what I like to draw, but also that also looks very paper-like and very sort of 3D at the same time, and I think people really like 3D looking stuff. So yeah, that was a pretty cool little live stream today. Long one. It's 11:45, so I've been on for a while, but listen, if you're still hanging around, I appreciate everybody being here. If you've got any questions, chuck them in the chat now before I hit the hay. But yeah, I think we've done some pretty cool stuff today. I'm really pleased with how the nighttime one came out. I said this to you guys a little while ago that I will always prefer a nighttime scene. I prefer the darker aesthetic and highlights look to things. More than I like a daytime scene. Sometimes I really struggle with a light theme, because to me it's, I don't know, it looks too washed out. I don't know why, there's not enough contrast and stuff. But yeah, we got some pretty cool designs today. I'm really pleased with how they all came out. So if there's no questions, there's new merch available. I probably saw it. It's in the link in my description, so you can go and check that out if you want to grab a Joel Create hoodie and flex that. If you want to become a YouTube member, hit the join button. You'll get a little badge beside your name that Christy had, for example, earlier on. And you'll be able to get a loyalty badge beside your name every month that passes. It will upgrade and become even better. So it starts off like navy, then it's like blue, then it's green, and then it's bronze, silver, gold. And you can flex that badge and you get custom emojis and stuff. But if you want to get even more Joel Create content, if you're new and you're not already a patron, hit the link in my bio, become a patron, and then you can get access to even more tutorials every single month. So once we hit that 100 goal as well, 100 patrons, my Patreon amount will increase to 3 a month. So yeah, you could be part of ticking that over into the hundreds, which would be really cool. I appreciate everybody hanging out, like everybody who's always here as well, the regulars. I appreciate you all hanging out. I know obviously it's been a long one today, so the numbers have sort of flattened out towards the end, which is fine. But yeah, I'm glad to be back. I've missed drawing a lot, and I miss hanging around with you guys, and I love sharing everything that you everything I know, and helping you guys out with all those little tips and tricks. So I'm glad you can, as you just mentioned there, Bethany, see my process and what I'll go through, and how sometimes you can maybe hit a dead end, but there's a different way of doing it, and then there's maybe even a slightly easier way of doing it, and it will save you a boatload of time. So enjoy the rest of your week. I will be live again on Wednesday because that's a typical day anyway. I wanted to do an extra one, so I'll be live on Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'm going to draw yet. I think I want to mess around with some maybe like digital effects, almost like Photoshop style effects again. So I'll be live again on Wednesday if you want to come and check us out again. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to plug, really. Is there anything else to plug? No, I think we're all good. But yeah, big love to everybody hanging out. I love all of you. Thank you for being here, chilling out, and I'm glad I could be back doing what I actually really enjoy doing. So live again on Wednesday. UK time is 9 o'clock, so roughly around 8 or 9 o'clock, depending on if I can get on a bit earlier. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world, but otherwise I will speak to you on Wednesday.